All right, so I had a client reach out to me because they're having an issue with one of their workflows. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna troubleshoot it right on here on this video here. And so you can see my troubleshooting method and also to show you actually how to get this accomplished for what he's trying to do. So let me show you what he's doing here. This is the loom that he sent me, and what he's doing in his message that's coming down, he wants to have, so the incoming message, he wants to, it was during working hours, so it's between what he's doing here between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. He wants to send a specific message. If not, he wants to go down the other branch, which would be outside working hours. So let's look a little bit closer at this. What he has going on here is the if else statement is the working hours, and the current hour is on or after 7 a.m. Okay, and the current hour is on or before 6 p.m. So it's going to look to see, does it fall within that time range? And then if not, I'll go look at branch 2, which is the outside working hours. So what he has here is after 6 p.m. Okay, so what he has here is on or, the current hour is on or before 6 p.m. and then he has after 6 p.m. So it's going to be the after working hours. And then the current hour is before 7 a.m. Okay, so after working hours through the night to the next morning, that's how he wants set up. By looking at this, it makes sense. It should work. So let's go and test it out. But obviously it's not because he's having an issue. So I'll hop on a high level here. I'll go and create a workflow. And what I would do for this, how I would go and test something out like this. So I would go and build this simple thing out. What I'm going to do is we don't really need a trigger. We could, but we don't. In this case, I'm just going to go straight to making an if-else statement, and we're going to do the same thing. Let's say working hours. Now let's do time and date. Current hour is on or after, and he said, what was it, 6 a.m.? 7 a.m. Okay, so 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 a.m. condition and current hour, time, date. Current hour is on or before 6 p.m. So 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then the next branch is going to be, we'll say, outside working hours. And we're going to say that time, current hour is after, because we don't want to include on because that's what's included here, 6 p.m. So we're going to say after 6 p.m. And the condition would be, so we're looking at before, when do you get back here? 7 a.m. in the morning. So we're going to say is before 7 a.m. So 7 a.m. So what we have here, on or after 7 a.m., before 6 p.m., on or before 6 p.m. And then if it's outside working hours, it's on or it's after 6 p.m. and before 7 a.m. Makes sense, should work, right? So let's go ahead and save this. Now the way I test this is, what I'm going to do is, instead of just running someone through here multiple times, I like to do this. I'm just going to put a wait step in. So let's put a wait step. Put some arbitrary number, say 10 days. And I'm going to copy this over here. I'm going to copy it over again over here. Because what I'm doing, I'm going to send a contact through, and we're going to see what branch it goes down. So currently, when I'm doing this right now, it is 10:28 p.m. my time. So I'm going to, I want to make sure you publish it and turn it on. And so I'm going to click save. What I'm going to do is, we don't need any other actions because we're really just testing the if-else, the branch. So I'm going to test contact. We'll just put in whatever. These are all test contacts in this account. Doesn't really matter. So run test. Now, instead of clicking the refresh button, it takes longer to load. Here's a little hot tip. Just click on one of these tabs up here and then go right back. And then now you see, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so he went down the none branch. Why is that? That doesn't make sense. It should be one of these. Or actually, it should be the outside working hours because it's after 7 p.m. but before 6 a.m. Why is that? Okay, well, let's go take a look at the execution logs. So come down here, so it failed on the if-else condition. If we click on the clipboard here, let's take a look at the details. Current hour is on or after 7, okay? Right now it's Thursday, January 11th at 10:29 p.m. So that part was true. Good. And current hour is on or before 18. So 18 is 6 p.m. So that's false, which is correct because it's after 6 p.m. It's 10:29. Now we get down to the next one. So it should go down this branch. And it says current hour is after 1800, which is 6 p.m., which is true. Correct. So far, so good. Now we get to here. Current hour is before 7 a.m. or before 7. But it says false. But isn't it before? Okay, why is that? That's weird. So let's go ahead and that doesn't work. What we're going to do, let's try something else. So let's go back here. And we're going to try to play around with this. So if we click back into here, let's see. 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Okay, maybe if we look at this, so 6 p.m., but then think about this as a full day, so it's rolling over. So that's probably why it's quite not working. So let's try this. Let's do 6 p.m. instead of doing 7 a.m., because then it's looking at the beginning of the day and it kind of gets confused there. So let's do to midnight. So make them into chunks for this day, because you hit midnight and then you're rolling over the next day. So 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. And let's add another segment. This time it's going, so this is and this is going to be or now we're in the beginning chunk of that day. So we're going to do current hour is, so if we did before midnight, so we're going to do on or after midnight, and current hour is before, and we're doing the 7 a.m. So we'll do 7 a.m. Okay, so now we got the two chunks here. 6 p.m. to midnight, and then we have midnight to 7 a.m. Should work. Let's see if this works. So I'll save that. I'll save this. Now what I'll do is, because I still have the contact in here, that's why I put a wait step, because it will sense it like a wait step. It's always I test my workflows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this action up to here. And whenever you move an action or a wait step that has a contact in it, the contacts stay with it, which is pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a copy of this and put it back down here. And so essentially I'm just going to run this through again, and we're going to see what happens. Again, it's 10:35 p.m. right now, so hopefully this should go straight down to the outside working hours. Let's try this. Go in the contact here. I'm going to force them through to the next step. Okay, I'm doing a little quick refresh. I'm going to go back. Again, it went to the nut. Why is that? Okay, let's take a look at this. Let's go to execution logs. Let's see why it failed. Failed. A little clipboard here. So again, current hour is on or after 7, which is true. It's after 7 a.m. And it is not before 18, so not before 6, because it's 10:35, so that's false. So this works out fine. Now this one, current hour is after 18, which is true because it's 10:35, and current hour is before 0. Well, before 0, so that says false because it's not. Okay, so here's what's going on. It's looking at 0 as the beginning of the day. So don't think about it. Okay, that makes sense. So don't think about it as 0 as being like that midnight. Think about 0 as the beginning of the day. So we look at it as chunks. So let's do this. And this one down here, current hour is after 0, which is true. And is it before 7? Before 7 a.m.? No, that's false. Okay, so it's false because it's not before 7, right? So none of these working. So this will, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to have to change this up slightly. All right, so let's do this. Let's break it down. I'm going to pull out my little drawing notepad here, and let's look at it this way. So if we look at this as a full day, so if I do this, we say we draw a full day here. All right, so now we have 0, which is midnight, and we have 24, which is the next day, midnight, right? Okay, and we want to do, what do we say? We're doing 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So when we look at this, we have to have it in two different, the first one works. So this one to this one, that works just fine because it's one chunk. But the next one, that's why originally when we did the 6 p.m. to 7 a.m., it didn't work because it's going here, it's looking at it as two different chunks. So you can't do it as just one full swoop. You have to change it up a little bit. That was iteration number 1. Now, the second time, that didn't work either because we did 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. or we did 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. Remember, that was what it was. We said on or before 12 a.m. Well, if you think about it, this 12 a.m. is actually this over here. So again, that wasn't working out either because it looked at that condition as being after midnight, and that wasn't the case. So we're going to change this up. This is how we're going to change this up. We're going to do this. We'll start with chunk number 1 over here. So we're going to do one condition, or one segment of the workflow, is on or after 12 a.m. and before 7 a.m. Okay, so we have this chunk right here. Now, on the second part over here, where the 6 p.m. is, all we're going to do is say after 6 p.m. Because think about it, anything after 6 p.m. is all going to be this way. Anything after 6 p.m. is all going to be after up until midnight. So that's how that's going to work. Hopefully that makes sense there. So let's go back and build that out and try it. So we're going to go back here to builder. Go down to the condition here. So this one again is working fine. And we'll go down here. So is after 6 p.m. right? So now we're doing this chunk after 6 p.m. and we're just going to leave it. Everything after 6 p.m. because if it's anything after 6 p.m., it's going to be midnight and you can't go any further past midnight. Think about it that way. So we'll just remove this guy here after 6 p.m. And our next chunk is, or you can kind of switch these around if you want to do. If you want to, doesn't really matter. It's going to work the same way. If you want to do 12 a.m. to 7 a.m., you can do that and then have this one down here. But it's going to work the same way. So 6 p.m., after 6 p.m., and then between 12 or midnight and 7 a.m. All right, so think about it that way. So now let's go ahead and test this again. So we just save this. Again, I'll do this. Move my little object up here. And I'm going to move this wait step back down here. So now it's a catch-all. Save this, because you always got to save it before you run someone through. Otherwise, it still thinks that it's down here. All right. Again, we're going to come here, and we are going to, reminder again, it is 10:42 p.m. right now. So it should fall in the outside working hours. Let's run the little guy. Move all. And let's see where he went. Refresh. And we see he's down in the outside working hours. Boom, that's what we want. Let's go to the execution logs and check it out. Okay, so the condition here says executed. Perfect. After 7, correct, it's after 7 p.m. Or sorry, it's after 7 a.m. And it's not before 6 p.m. because it's actually after. Now we look at the outside working hours one, and it met one of the segments. One of the segments was after 6 p.m., so it's midnight. Boom, that's working exactly as we want it. It doesn't show the other condition. It will down here to see after 6 or after midnight and before 7. All right, so that's how that works. If you want to do the outside working hours, if you want to do during working hours and outside working hours, this is how you're going to make that work. You got to think about it as chunks of the day, how the times look at it when you're doing this. So hopefully that helps, and I'll see you on the next video.